Pokémon, the biggest media franchise in the world, surpassing Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse by more than half of their total revenue for a third of its age. A name known since childhood, steadily standing its position throughout the years. It created core memories for millions of people across the globe and across multiple generations. From playground rumors to competitive battling, shiny hunting, or even Nuzlockes, everyone has a unique experience that grew along with them. The diversity of the franchise offers a possibility for everyone to enjoy Pokémon. From the spin-offs to the anime, books and more, they managed to dip a toe in different genres and medias, effectively consolidating their player base and expanding their already well-known name. But in recent years, the Pokémon company started to face ever-growing backlash from their audience. Many players began expressing their disappointment, growing release after release. Why does the Golden Goose seem to deteriorate with time while breaking records? And how does it affect the player base and mainly the target audience? For those questions to be answered, we need to look back at some major events and changes in Pokémon's history in a very simplified way. I'll fly over some things as I assume you already are familiar with the franchise in some way. Around 25 years ago, the Pokémania took over the world. After a relatively quiet launch in Japan, the game originally known as Pocket Monster Red and Blue were exported to the other continents for the whole world to play. Arriving on store shelves with the newly rebranded name of Pokémon in late September of 1998 in North America and a year later in Europe, the games took everyone by surprise. With the help of the animated series and the trading card game getting popular amongst children, the first generation of Pokémon started to sell at a pace never seen before, shortly becoming the most sold game at the time. It is still the generation that sold the most units as of 2024. Gameplay-wise, you're going on a new, exciting adventure where you get to learn about every Pokémon, choose your own team and grow with them. They established the basics for every generation to come, being a simple RPG with unique evolving creatures inspired from the real world, its folklore and legends. The battle mechanism set up in those titles was a simplified version of what could be found in other RPGs at the time to appeal to a younger audience. Its core design and mechanism made it throughout the years and functions basically the same in every following mainline games, even to this day. The story is pretty simple but effective. You walk around the Kanto region, inspired by its real-life eponym region in Japan, with the goal of becoming the league champion and catch all 151 Pokémons. While one of these objectives is easily reachable after some grinding, the collection part is a bit more complex. The creator, Satoshi Tajiri, wanted to connect people together with his games and achieved it by implementing exclusive Pokémons to each version. In the red version, you can't obtain Vulpix, Magmar nor Pinsir in the game, for example, because they're exclusive to the blue version, as well as you can't obtain Growlithe nor Scyther in blue. In the same vein, some Pokémons can only evolve through trading. That means you will need to trade with a friend who has the other version, or to buy both, which was pretty unlikely back in the days, to be able to complete your Pokédex. This was a clever marketing choice, as it pushed people to engage more with each other and the game, and therefore spreading to other people that might not play it yet. When the first generation came out, the Game Boy was already 10 years old. During the 6 years development of Pokémon, they had the time to understand and optimize their cartridge to the full extent of the hardware's capacity. Mind you, to do that, they had to use a lot of shortcuts, smoke and mirrors, but in the end they managed to come with a game weighing less than a picture taken with your smartphone. However, with all this data compiled and texturized, it is fairly easy to break the game and run into things not intended by the developers. In the great search of the Pokédex completion, DMU was still unobtainable. What I said earlier that you need someone with a second version to be able to complete your Pokédex, it's not completely true. His number is 151, the last one to be added at the last minute before the game shipped. Apart from obtaining it through official events gifts, there is no legitimate way to encounter it in the first generation. So some players began to do random actions and see how the game would react, and maybe make the Mew encounter possible. It wasn't before 2003 that the Mew glitch was discovered. However, back in 1999, a gruel of pixels shortly gained the interest of the mass audience. Elevated to somewhat of a legendary statue thanks to specialized magazines, the glitch Pokemon Missing No is amongst the most well-known glitch in the world. Its uncommon appearance and various beneficial effects contributed to its popularity and to the titles. Its existence spread around so much that Nintendo had to release an official statement in their monthly new magazine Nintendo Power, warning players not to try to encounter it as it could corrupt data. Several studies were even made on the impact and effects of Missing No on the player's behavior and how it affected video games in general. Needless to say, this was one of the many glitches that positively impacted the popularity of the game. It's sadly not the case for the future games, as we'll see later in this video. The next installments in the mainline games were also very well received. Pokemon Gold and Silver introduced a new region in the addition of the old one amongst many other features and quality of life improvements, and Ruby and Sapphire delivered the beloved Battle Frontier as well as double battles, for example. Even the remake of the first generation, launched around the same time as the Nintendo DS on its predecessor, managed to gain some notoriety. Luckily for those games, the fourth generations wouldn't be available to the public until some years later, leaving some time for the fans to replay or discover some older gens. When the Nintendo DS launched, the fans of the original games were grown-ups now. A new generation of player was coming due to the release of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl in late 2006 for Japan and 2007 for the rest of the world. Even with all these years, the Pokemon Company managed to maintain their place at the top. Some controversies aside, they also maintained a good relationship with their public. It greatly helped selling the fourth generation. All of the games used the new double screen of the DS as well as its new hardware possibilities efficiently. The core of the game was still omnipresent, but with a more sophisticated touch. But I feel like they started to experiment more on the world building and overall narration than in previous titles. The graphics evolved too. Small animations now played on Pokemons who were more detailed themselves. As for the remakes, they came with the Pokewalker, an accessory to take your Pokemon with you everywhere. The regions were beautifully remastered, and game-wise it came with a very appreciated supplement, Pokemons walking behind you. Last time we saw this was with Pikachu in Pokemon Yellow. Now all 493 Pokemons up to the 4th generation could follow you in your journey through Johto and Kanto. It was a very appreciable experience to say the least. I just barely hovered on what these games have to offer, but basically all you have to remember is that it laid to some expectations for the next generation. The bar keeps getting higher and higher. On the 6th of February 2010, a Japanese TV show by the name of Pokemon Sunday aired a special edition. After watching an episode from the 8th season of the anime Pokemon Advance Battle, the presenter presented a short trailer for the upcoming movie Ruler of the Illusion Z. Just before the end of the show, Junichi Masuda, the series director, interrupted the hosts shortly to make a big announcement. A whole new generation was coming. Along with it came a picture of the shadow silhouette of the main Pokemon of the future movie. Only 2 weeks later, the mysterious figure was finally revealed. Zoroark, along with the pre-evolution Zorua, were the first 2 Gen 5 Pokemons to be introduced to the public. The official stats for the best evolution line in the entire franchise are also shown, which I find kinda cute. Can you tell I'm biased? Don't worry, it gets worse. Newcomers and old players were both eager to discover this new generation. The Game Freak team aimed to recreate the original Pokemon experience. You are only able to obtain the new Pokemons until a certain part of the story, where you unlock the possibility to see Pokemons from older gens. It was time to get out of the usual comfort Pokemon team. A nostalgic but refreshing experience was presented. The sprites received a major update, now being fully animated loops. But the real main focus of Pokemon Black and White was, against all odds, the story. A fully fleshed out and immersive story, which gives a lot to think about morality, especially at a young age. It gave space and nuance for this subject and matter to develop. It makes the player question his own morality and ideals within the game's universe and out, and allows for some degree of finding yourself in that could help grow personally. It lets you reflect on a different point of view on those creatures and the friendship you build with them throughout your journey. One of the first interactions you have with one of the main antagonists, Getsis, implicitly constructs a parallel between the game's world and a real one. I'm sure most of you believe that we humans and Pokemon are partners that have come to live together because we want and need each other. However, is that really the truth? Have you ever considered that perhaps we humans only assume that this is the truth? Pokemon are subject to the selfish commands of trainers. They get pushed around when they are our partners at work. Can anyone say with confidence that there is no truth in what I'm saying? Near the end of the game, another quote could be interpreted as another parallel with our world. Pokemon are different from people. They are living beings who contain unknown potential. They are living beings from whom we humans have much to learn. They are beings whose greatness we should acknowledge. Beings who should be freed from our oppression. These quotes show that even a villain can be nuanced, and it's cause good, while also allowing you to think about how you treat your pet, for example, or that poor James Lev. You can feel the attention and the care of details at every step you take. These games are, in my opinion, a love letter to the Pokemon franchise as a whole. The seasons changing the Pokemons, the location, characters, music, everything is meticulously placed in order for you to enjoy your experience to the fullest, whether you're a new player or not fan. This feeling is also heavily present in the second opus, Black and White 2. Breaking the rule of making a third game for every generation, Gen 5 got 2 separate games. You revisit Unova 2 years later after the events of its predecessor, with a completely different story. You encounter characters you've seen in the past and can notice their direct evolution. For example, in the first games, your rivals, Bianca and Sharon, were roaming the world with you, defeating arena champions and catching Pokemons. In the second installment, Bianca is an apprentice for the professor and Sharon is the leader of the first city's arena. Gen 5 as a whole was the most ambitious project Game Freak ever delivered in my opinion. But sadly, it came at the end of the DS's life and with some controversies. Anyway, a new era was around the corner, with the 3D technology the 3DS brought to the table. After Gen 5 became the worst-selling generation of all time, much less eyes were turned to the 6th generation, but a new addition would soon change that. The last Pokemon types to be added was still in Dark in Gen 2, 13 years before the release of Pokemon X and Y. So it took fans by surprise when Nintendo announced a new fairy type from Gen 6. Later that year, the Koro magazine revealed the Mega Evolution system in August. But the biggest change so far was the graphics. A shift from the beloved 2D sprites to the 3D models officially demarcated this new gen from its predecessor. This new era was already showing its downside. From now on, every generation will come with a shtick, starting with Mega Evolution for this one. But apart from that, very few risks were taken and the lack of innovation made for a decent game, but that's all. The new 3D models also suffered some complaints, notably about the fact that they are less detailed than their 2D counterparts. Despite all that, the biggest crack that was starting to show was on the glitch side. With every generation, less and less bugs were present in the mainline games. While almost every of them has their unique glitch, like the void in Gen 4 or Gen 2's cloning, Pokemon X and Y came with a little surprise on its own of the release. If you were to save in Lumiose City before the 1.1 patch was implemented and reload your game, there is a high probability that you will encounter the save glitch. The game is frozen despite the background music still playing, and the player is unable to move or to do anything. It corrupts permanently the save file, and you will have to restart the game all over again. Luckily it was patched shortly, but it still ruined a lot of people's save files with no way to recover it. That major glitch was only the beginning of the technical downfall to come. Fast forward a few years later, around 2016, a second Pokemania took over the world with Pokemon Go.
In St. Pete right now. Got a Pokemon? She's looking for Pokemon.
It's an important reminder. You're playing the Pokemon thing right there, right?
It was madness everywhere, and the Pokemon brand reconquered once again the fanbase's heart. People were going crazy over this new mobile application for quite a while. After the hype died down a bit, Pokemon was still on everyone's lips. A year later, and after a few games on the 3DS, it was time to make a change on Nintendo's new baby, the Switch. Long awaited by fans, Pokemon was now trying to implement some open world into their game, and their first try was with Pokemon Sword and Shield. Oh, okay, so people really wanted an open world, huh? So did they like it? Oh! They delivered an unfinished game at launch. Many bugs and glitches were and still are present, making the experience less enjoyable. While being a generally okay game, it failed the expectations of everyone. Also, it's the first generation to come with DLCs instead of separate game like previous titles. The next entry, the Gen 4 remake, also came with very low public appreciation. Bugs, ugly art direction, more glitches, like you can softlock yourself in a gym if you move diagonally. This whole generation, including the remakes, made bank. It was technically a great success for Nintendo. They got the message loud and clear. No matter how unfinished or buggy a game would be delivered, the public would still buy it. Just a year later, the last generation, as of the time of recording this video, was ready on the shelves. Let's dive into the real problem, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Before going into the bad things, let's take a look at the good side. The music. Music is always an important part of your journey. From the emotional moments to the traumatizing ones, every bit of your adventure is drove by music. Gen 9's music is a masterpiece. Probably because it got composed by Toby Fox. Yeah, you know, that guy, the guy who made this. While fighting the final boss, the music goes perfectly with the unsettling atmospheric voices of the shimmering shines going into a climax as the professor turns is really well done. You can feel the tension in these fights, the pressure of the moment. It reminds me of the pure masterpiece in black and white, the legendary OST. From the beginning, you're met with dissonant notes and a pressing tempo. The music evolves to slow down and speed up as the battle progresses. It really makes you feel that you are not against any creature. We're gonna play the game here. Which one is a Pokemon OST and which one is not? Yeah, that was indeed the second one. Yahoo! No shade, I really love this song, but I thought it would be a funny note that it sounds like techno. Now, on a darker tone, let's get back to the main subject, the failure of the last generation. So, what went wrong? The sad fate of Pokemon Refund world record started before even releasing. The first trailer released a month after the launch of Pokemon Legend of Arceus, and the graphics were lacking. Normally, this wouldn't be much of an issue, but even trailers shown months later have this problem. When a company wants to produce a trailer for their game, they don't just pick a random moment already present in the game, since it's generally early in production development. They use what is called a vertical slice, which is a part of the game that will be fully rendered to look like the finished product. So usually, in trailers, you see something that may seem too good sometimes, but it's not the case here. On release day, people understood why. It just runs very badly. As with Pokemon Sword and Shield, Game Freak thought that it would be a great idea to deliver their new game in another buggy and unfinished state. This obviously led to outrage, and a great wave of refunds started all over the world. But bugs weren't the only reason people wanted their money back, only a few days after buying the game. First, let's talk about the piss poor graphics. It will be short since I'm pretty sure everyone has eyes and can see the problem here. One argument I saw a lot was that Breath of the Wild handled the open world graphics to work perfectly on the Switch. And while I agree with this statement, we need to address the elephant in the room here, the Game Freak team. The total number of people working there is a little over 200, and probably less work on the mainline games. For comparison, the number of people who worked on the last Zelda, Tears of Kingdom, is around 1,150. But we'll get back to all that a bit later, because the lack of staff isn't the only reason the graphics look the way they do. I believe the open world art direction also suffered heavily in this opus. What defined the vast majority of Pokemon mainline games before was this sense of exploration. Discovering new lands, new Pokemons and new trainers was the core trinity of basic mechanics. However, it seems like they took on a new approach for Scarlet and Violet. Trainers are now optional to fight, which can result in being under-leveled for certain parts, even if they encourage it with this little NPC who gives a reward for defeating trainers. I won't talk about the designs because it comes down to personal preferences. I personally like most of the new Pokemons, but the new land looks empty. Contrary to every other generation, you can't go in most of the buildings. This leaves you with the open world and some closed spaces buildings like the school, arena entrances and important points. It takes away a very important RPG part of the adventure. You can't go around, break into people's homes and talk to them to get some random items or just a chat. It also renders the towns forgettable and almost useless. Since they're only used for gym battles and occasionally buying spices, they don't have any content that would draw the player to stay there. Even arenas are now reduced to a copy-paste building entrance. So, if you can go into most buildings and have basically nothing to do in the cities, at least I hope the overworld looks nice. Well, While the concept of an open world was long awaited from fans, Game Freak didn't have any experience with the concept prior to Legends of Arceus and the world areas in Sword and Shield, and lacked the understanding of it too apparently. To make your world feel alive, you need more than a squad of Pokemon appearing magically 2 meters from you. You need more than blend hills and randomly placed spawns. You have a tree here and there. You have different biomes though, which is a nice point. But when Vanilla WoW does a better job at rendering a snowy mountain, I feel betrayed. When Majora's Mask on the N64 can have better graphics than some parts of Gen 9, I feel scammed. They could have done so much more since they got their hands on 3D for a decade now, and we know they can do great modeling. Take Area Zero for example. I could spend hours in this place. Everything from the light effects to the overall ambience is well executed because they spend time perfecting the endgame. Like the whole game's budget went into this place. If they took the same patience and strictness for the rest of the game, it would look a lot better. But with this okayish open world comes a terrible level design. While the game is effectively an open world, it still keeps a certain linearity as certain regions are level locked. What I mean by that is some areas are coded to contain trainers and Pokemons of certain levels. For example, this area of the map is composed of certain level Pokemons, and this gym leader has a team ranging from level 45 to 48. So you can't effectively do everything in the order you want, but that easily could have been possible by implementing a level cap. If all the Pokemon's level are based on your progression, you can have a balanced progression while still allowing for maximum freedom. What path you take will be ultimately up to you, instead of the path Nintendo intended anyway. It poses problems if you skip some of those low level paths, for example. You need to come back to it at some point to progress your story, at which you'll likely be over-leveled. It takes away the challenge and breaks the feeling of progression. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the overall emptiness of the game. I mentioned it earlier, but it goes deeper than just the lack of trees. The 3 main objectives given in the post-game like raids are pretty much all there is to do. You can't really trigger weird events by going into some building, taking a boat, or even changing the whole music you hear by talking to someone. There are not enough interesting caves or small houses to explore. It lacks any substance by not having some form of side quest to do. Sure, you could set your own goal like shiny hunting or competitive breeding, but in a game like Pokemon where one of the core design mechanisms is to talk to people, look into trashes and uncover the many mysteries of the regions, it's going backwards to take most of these away. And sadly, it's not the only thing Game Freak removed from Gen 9. But well, at least you got the same area copy-pasted 4 times for you to press a single button 10 times in a row to use the Let's Go mechanic. Fun, isn't it? Anyway, customization is now worse than it was a decade ago in X and Y, their first mainline 3D title, and some quality of life features were simply removed. I'm almost finished whining, and don't worry, the conclusion is gonna be way less salty than this part of the video. But even with all this yap, I still think some good things lie under the garbage pile. I do genuinely believe that this can be a fun game, especially if you play with friends or hang out with them. I picked up the game again for this video and I must say, I didn't enjoy going back to my usual Pokemon gameplay. But that's it. I only enjoyed what I'm already used to do. Sadly, the very tight deadlines and the small Game Freak working team makes for a bland game with unused potential. I believe these two factors are the main cause why the newer Pokemon games all have this unfinished state. But then, why am I complaining? Why not just put the game aside and do something useful of my life? Excluding the fact that I can't stop playing, my main complaint comes from how Nintendo treats the main target they try to appeal to: children. Sure, kids don't really bother too much if a game is buggy or not very good looking, but Pokemon is a brand associated with Nintendo, which holds a certain standard in the industry. If they show that unfinished games can be sold well, it may be interpreted by other AAA developers as if they could do the same. Most importantly, they use the fact that their target audience won't boycott or leave the franchise aside if those standards aren't met. These children will still watch the anime on the TV before going to school, they will still buy and trade TCG cards, and they will still buy the next game, and so do I. The way Game Freak uses their IP feels almost predatory, as you can't escape Pokemon. I don't think it's right to send the message that it's okay to give crap to kids and rack their money as long as you're a big franchise. Mobile phone games are usually shitty and used a lot by children, but at least they don't have to pay a dime for it, compared to the €70 Pokemon mainline game plus €35 DLC we have today. Imagine if you watched The Lion King as a child and it looked like this. For a renowned name like Disney, it would be impossible to think. It wouldn't be tolerated if it got out. Gen 8 and 9 released in a similar state. While there was outrage, the vast majority still bought and played them. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has made really big numbers, even with the refund wave at its release. Whether the players liked it or not, all Game Freak sees is that the game sold better than almost all previous generations. Though without much money comes hope. It seems like Game Freak is trying to be more ambitious with projects like Legends of Arceus or the open world experiments. Sure, it comes with the cost of trial and error, but in the end, it seems like it's going on the right path. Legends ZA was announced a few months ago to be released somewhere in 2025. This game seems to break the usual release schedule of Pokemon games and continues the Legends series in Kalos, which I think is a great thing. It shows that they're willing to try and bring a new light on the franchise, allowing themselves to have enough time to polish their game and even grow their staff. At least, I hope. Congratulations! You reached the end of this video. Thanks for watching it, I hope you enjoyed it. Wait, I think I forgot something. Oh yeah, the biggest leak in Pokemon's history. I'll let you search this on your own, as this video is long enough as it is. It was supposed to be a lot longer, but after losing my project once, I was too lazy to remake everything, so I cut big portions of it. That's why some sections seems really rushed. I hope it didn't feel too much of a rant and allowed you to explore some history of the Pokemon mainline games. Also yes, I know the title is mostly clickbait, but hey, I'm trying to build my future here. By the way, after some advice and after a long period of reflection, I've decided to open a public Patreon. I created it a while ago in case it might be useful one day, and even if I'm not well known or anything, I'd like to give it a try. I'd like to expand on this channel and try to give myself a goal of living with my project. By the way, don't forget to not subscribe, because I don't want to reach 10k followers. Don't do that. Actually do it. On that, I wish you a good day or night. That was Delta for Wormhole. Stay tuned.